Man, I got to start using LC's intro more. Those things are pretty cool. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. Got Evan Veith, got Drew Kelson. All of us are UT grads. Only one of us played football at Texas, but we can talk a little Texas football, and we're going to do that today. And if you want to come talk Texas football, head to InsideTexas.com. The sale won't be on much longer, so $1 until August 30th. New members only, gets you access on some recruiting intel. Camp starts in exactly 1 week, so going to be fun to go check out the Denny's Fields. We're going to be talking about everything, scrimmages, practice, all the different stuff going on. This is where we shine. We shine all 12 months, but this is one of the best months to be part of Inside Texas. So go check us out, $1 until August 30th, and we know you're going to want to stick around. And, of course, make sure you buy our guy Paul Wadlington's Thinking Texas Football. Every position, every player, every SEC opponent, every SEC member, college football landscape, Eric Naleen on the 2025 class. Everything you want to know about the Texas Longhorns, Paul Wadlington has it in Thinking Texas Football. So go check it out. The link is in the description. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Arch Manning, some guy who is going to play quarterback for Texas. I think that's the last time that joke can be made for it to work. But Evan, you wrote something today. All the different noise around Arch Manning right now is like, is he a top 5 quarterback in the sport? Is he the top? Is he top 5 in the SEC, top 10, whatever? He's going to be good. We have faith in that. But you wrote something about how no matter where he's ranked or what tier he's in, Texas can still have a good season, and its ceiling kind of depends on how high he goes as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you talk about the discourse with Arch Manning, a lot of it is from the very start, it was this guy's overrated because of his name, which then you see him on the field and you go, oh, crap, he's actually really good. He's juking out offenders on UTSA. And then this whole offseason, you've gotten people that are going, he's up here. He's going to be the Heisman favorite. And then you have people going, I don't think this kid's any good. And it feels like there's no kind of talking about the tiers of where he could be as a player. And that's where I think why I started this idea of like, if he's just a top 25 guy, I compared him in the article to Nico Iamaleava last year, who was a year behind on a worse team, but he was probably around the 20th best quarterback in the nation last year. Where could Arch Manning, if he was just that, take this team? And it's something that a lot of the podcast guys have been talking about recently. I still think, to spoil the article a little bit, it has Texas being in the national title hunt, just maybe not the favorite.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a few other different names. You know, Drew Aller is in there. That's a player that got to the Final Four. Will Howard, I think we have a lot of respect for, but, you know, he wasn't picked too far ahead of Quinn Ewers. And Riley Leonard, you know, was I don't want to say a system quarterback, but he fit that system perfectly, and that system wasn't predicated on passing. So there's a lot of different stuff going on. And Nico, for all the NIL faults he had, is, there's still some room for him to grow. And Tennessee was still a playoff team, even though and that was mostly because of defense. But let's get into the article, if I can pull this up on the screen and even zoom in a little bit. You know, you talk a little bit about, hey, you know, Ty Simpson could be someone that you have to factor in. Drew Aller could be somebody that you have to factor in. But if Manning is just a top 25 quarterback, you kind of view it as pretty similar to last year.
Yeah, and I think that's what you got from Quinn Ewers last year. As much as you can be high or low on him, it really varies with who you're talking to. That's probably where you were at. What I note in the article, as you can see that highlighted, is I don't think there's a Golden or Banks on this team. Now, Gooseby and Wingo are going to step up, and they're going to be really good players, but that's where it's hard, where if this defense is still elite like last year, top 3 in the country, you still have a lot of question marks on the offense because you don't know if you have any guys who are going to carry what Manning can't do. I don't think this is where he's going to be. Personally, I think he's more than just a top 25 quarterback. I don't think there's any way he's worse than that. But outside of injury, I think there's no way he's not going to be in that 10 to 12 and lower range. But this is still a possibility that has to be accounted for.
Drew, if he's top 25, like, and just that's probably bottom half of the SEC, isn't it?
That should definitely be bottom half of the SEC. But it also means there's something Sark isn't doing. Something's not clicking because if you just look back on last year's offense, I mean, there's just so much left on the field and so much potential when you just have a quarterback with his athleticism So it's not just Arch being a part of this thing just to make it great. It's Arch plus Sark, which combined should make him no less than the top 25 quarterback. So that's really, I think, where people aren't just talking about it. It's just all the tools that Arch has that Sark has at his disposal when it comes to Arch. That layered on with just his natural talent is going to be pretty impressive.
I think it's kind of worth, Evan, moving past this because I hate addressing arguments that aren't there. And I don't think anybody's saying like, Arch is only going to be like upper quartile or whatever it is now. So let's keep on going. If Arch Manning is a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 5 in the SEC, someone who, is contending for awards, but also looks like a first-year starter, what do you kind of think ends up being the Longhorns' result?
Yeah, I kind of named those names that are in that conversation where I feel like the general consensus right now is Arch and Nussmeier as the top 2 guys. Maybe Sellers in there for whoever's picking your poison. Sellers has some really high highs. And Lagway, Mateer are also in that kind of area. And if he's just in there and this Texas defense is still a tier 1 defense, top 3 to 5 in the country, then Texas is up there as a title favorite, maybe the number 1. This is probably the most likely bottom scenario if you're thinking about Manning, where you see some of those flashes of turnover problems. You see a little bit of that first-year anxiety earlier in the year, but you're probably not going to see him have first-year jitters in January, which is what's most important for this Texas team. And that's probably why they're still going to be one of the top title contenders, even if he's not on the Heisman podium. And for what it's worth, that's probably better than what Quinn Ewers gave you last year. So I think you're still happy with that as a Texas fan, and also means that they're still left on the bone for 2026 potentially.
Drew, do these names all fit for, this caliber of player? Does somebody not belong? Should somebody be added in there?
Oh, no, man. These guys are ballers. I think one of the things I'm excited about this season is just the talent of quarterbacks that we'll get to see just throughout college football. Lenore Sellers and DJ Lagway are both guys that they can make a game. I mean, they're just in a short amount of time, they were able to make do. And I think with an offseason under their belt, they're going to be scary players. So I do think John Mateer, you do have a transition there. And as much as everyone speaks to him keeping his OC, it's still a transition, still new things there. So I'm anxious to see how it all plays out. But overall, I think the quarterbacks we have at our disposal, or that we get to enjoy this year in college football, is going to be a fun one.
The other thing is I love, I think, the respect that Texas fans have for Cade Klubnik. And I think a lot of that comes from, being the Austin Westlake state champion quarterback, 2-time state champion quarterback. But I think it also obviously comes from that playoff game last year where he had a great game. He was the only guy, I think, to hit over 300 yards passing against Texas all of last season. They've got a lot of wide receivers. And I think the noise, or maybe not the noise, the criticism around Dabo Swinney has kind of turned down a little bit, but you don't see much of it coming from Texas fans, especially after seeing what they have not only at quarterback, at wide receiver, but also at defensive line. Whereas, maybe looking around at John Mateer, just because no one's really familiar with Washington State at this point, Evan, and of course he's wearing crimson, maybe they're like, discounting him and, maybe thinking less of him when maybe they should give him a little more respect.
I think if you polled every Texas fan who knew who John Mateer was and asked if he'd be a top 5 quarterback next year, it would be about a 95-5 no to yes on that ratio. I don't think a lot of Texas fans are as confident.
Yeah, I'm go ahead, Drew.
No. I mean, I'm just laughing at that because you're right. You're absolutely right. And unless you're really tracking these guys, you have no idea what you're going to see. But he is worth going and watching his film from last year. Make no mistake about that. He was a great quarterback, just off the radar. So we'll get a chance to see for ourselves.
Lagway's from Texas, Mateer's from Texas, Nussmeier from Texas, Klubnik from Texas. Pretty impressive, good stuff for a lot of the Texas high school signal callers. Before we keep going and get to Manning as a Heisman contender, got to show some love to our sponsor, and that is David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor, and I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach, and he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Before we get going, got a couple comments to get through. What ranking is the 50-year-old quarterback at Georgia? What ranking would Gunnar Stockton be? This kind of fits into the Klubnik thing where, with me. We saw him play better than Carson Beck did against Texas. It was very temporary. It was a very different scenario. We saw him get the world knocked out of him by Andrew Makuba. But Evan, I don't think he needs to be – I don't know what he needs to be just because of what's still there at Georgia.
Well, what my argument would be is that where I had Arch in that top 25 idea, that's where I'd have Stockton, and I don't think Georgia's like the top tier contender this year. As much as you can't bet against Kirby Smart, I wouldn't have them as like this number 1 or number 2 far and away top tier team. I'd have Texas above them personally.
I'm going to doubt Kirby Smart at my own peril.
Yeah, right.
That guy knows defense. That guy's still got some great classes. I will doubt Mike Bobo though. That's something that he just seems simple, and they did do really well at wide receiver in the portal, probably better than they ever have. And they keep trying wide receiver in the portal. We'll see if Stockton can hit them. From our guy Williams David, quarterback's an important position. The fact that Texas has multiple position groups, either number 1 or number 2 in the entire nation, is more significant than Arch Manning being the number 1 ranked quarterback. Drew, the thing is, a lot of those number 1 and 2s are on defense.
No, you're absolutely right. One thing I know that I was thinking about this last week. Arch is not the only player that has seen the success over the last 2 years. I do think there's something to be said when you have just even returning O-linemen that have seen the guys ahead of them perform well. They've gone through a long season. They've got to see it. They got to see it be done. They've got to be in the film sessions. They've gotten to see the critiques. So they know what it takes to be great. They just haven't had a chance to touch the field yet. So while those guys or those players aren't 1 and 2, I mean, it's their turn this year to step up. We recruited this roster for a reason. We didn't go to the portal at various positions for a reason, and we've trusted Sark these last few years with in some ways some limitations on the offense. So I just have to think that these guys are developing in the way that we would expect, both for us to be able to have a balanced offense, because Sark wants to run the ball well, but also to be able to just take advantages of both Arch's athleticism, his big arm, and some of the speed and receivers we have down the field. So make no mistake, it's the experience of guys who are coming back and ready to eat. We're ready. So you wouldn't doubt this years ago if you were talking about Bama, if you were talking about Georgia, or any of these rosters or any of these schools that stack their rosters with top talent. But honestly, for Texas fans and for people who follow this program, maybe we're just not used to seeing Texas replace and replenish and perform year over year with a new roster. So it'll be interesting how this unfolds, but I really feel strongly about what we have coming in and stepping into these new spots.
I love how I'm sandwiched between y'all because, Evan, for your experience watching Texas, it's kind of like, okay, they're going to be good even if they play at this floor. Mm-hmm. And Drew, I'm sure when the team was there, it's like, they're going to be good even if they play at this floor. For me, when I was in school, it's like, they're going to be good if they play at this ceiling. Like it's a very, very different conversation. And so I think, you can look at guys like Wingo, Endries, Mosley, Moore at wide receiver and, whatever their counting stats may be. understand like these guys are all talented, and you can see that up and down the roster, even with some questions. We'll keep going, Evan, and talking about what happens if, speaking of ceilings, Manning's a Heisman finalist. You know, you never really know what happens with the Heisman just because, you know, a two-way star won it last year. Running back was second. You know, Cam Ward was the All-American quarterback, won all the different awards, won overall pick, just was an invite to New York. You know, that's a high level of play.
Yeah.
What is that? What do you did you see much difference between Heisman finalists and winning the Heisman?
I think the only difference for me, and without like fully spoiling what the winning the Heisman says, is just more the expectations that puts on like Sark and what it is. If Manning is this Heisman finalist, and maybe also PK in that respect, if he does win the Heisman, then it means that Texas has to win, and that's kind of where this fan base will be at if it gets to that ceremony and he's raising that trophy. They're going to be saying, hey, this Texas team should have been the one that won it all because of how this defense looked coming into the year. I think if he is just a finalist, you can maybe go, hey, there's always next year. Things happen in college football. You don't just go into games. Whoever's more favored wins the game. And that's obviously what's going to happen no matter what game. I think the fan expectation is a little different if Manning is just the best quarterback and the best player in the country. This year, it's going to be an awesome toss-up because Jeremiah Smith would have to do a lot to win the Heisman, but I think he doesn't have to do a lot to get to the ceremony. I think the same thing can be said for Arch because they want those two names there. After that, 2-3 more spots are going to be up to the best quarterbacks, most likely, unless Jeremiah Love is crazy good. And at that point, it's going to be a real toss-up. So I don't think there's any one quarterback that's going to go so far ahead of the others that it makes it so that one finalist is very different than the other ones, if that makes sense. So I think Arch making the Heisman ceremony in itself means that Texas is the best team in the country, probably, depending on what happens with defense and special teams. And if that's the case, then they're the favorite. And I think Texas would be the favorite either way if he's a good top 10 quarterback, but this would solidify it, in my opinion.
Drew, with I mean, the Heisman's so fickle. We know that really well. But if he's, you know, first team All-American quarterback, it's hard for me to think that Texas isn't playing in the national championship game too.
No, I mean, it's hard to deny that altogether. I mean, it's the one doubt that I have, and it has nothing to do with his talent or production. It's just when you have a great defense, or a defense that we anticipate to be great. I just don't know if you can win a Heisman winning games 28-7, you know, or 30-14. You know, so it really does come down to what are we forced to do with Arch? You know, do we need to go put up 35 a game, and how much of that is going to be on him? You know, how much of that is going to be mixed in with his legs? Sometimes it'll just be big games and big moments. So how the Heisman, you know, you can be a Heisman talent, however, not have the Heisman stats to really back it up. And with such a balanced roster, I'm just not sure we'll need it in certain games where really you need to pad those stats. So we'll be anxious to see how that all unfolds. But I just think back to like Jaden Daniels. I mean,
right.
There was no choice for him to play the way he played for them to even have a chance to win those games that he won the Heisman. I just don't know how much pressure or just how much of that's going to be really demanded of Arch throughout the season. So hopefully, if this team is as balanced as we think, and if they have all the tools to win a national championship, we don't need him to be at a Heisman level. And Sark really has a history of not pressing any more than he needs to when it comes to just getting a W and getting on the bus and headed home.
I'm glad you brought up Jaden Daniels because between Devontae Smith in 2020, who had a Heisman finalist and Mac Jones thrown to him, and Travis Hunter last year, who just, total unicorn, Bryce Young in 2021 overcame Bill O'Brien, but that defense was still number 9 in SP+. Then you look at Caleb Williams in 2022, the Alex Grinch defense at USC. You needed him to be amazing. Tulane came back on that team, even with Caleb on a messed up hammy and still putting up crazy numbers. And then, like you said, Jaden Daniels, he had to be that good because the defense was so terrible. So it's a lot of necessity creates these scenarios. And I think, it's not unreasonable to think that Arch is going to be maybe not a finalist, because I forget the finalists, but this guy is going to get votes no matter what. And maybe that means he's a top 5-ish player, top 10-ish player. but he's going to get votes, and more. Hopefully, it's more for his play, but he's going to get votes for his name too. And even if he wins the Heisman, like you mentioned here, Evan, like it's going to be a combination of both. But if he's winning the Heisman, that means Texas is doing stuff on the field that hasn't done even in the past few years.
Yeah, I kind of put this kind of like ceiling comparison of what this team could be, and it's 2018 Clemson, because you look at Trevor Lawrence, not a bad comparison to Manning, just this really tall, super good mechanics, can run the ball, can run over defensive backs as a rushing quarterback. And then I don't think there's a Trevor Etienne or Travis Etienne on this roster, but the receivers aren't the thing that carries the quarterback. The quarterback is the best part, but really it was the defense. I think they were third or fourth in points per game that year allowed. That Clemson defense was unstoppable. So that's what really won them it all. But Trevor Lawrence was also a Heisman level quarterback that year.
Yeah, I think Trevor could have gotten the Heisman as like a lifetime achievement award, but didn't end up getting it just because that was Kyler's year.
I want to say, yeah.
If it was 2018, yeah, Kyler won it. And 2019 was
Burrow's 2019.
Burrow. And 2020, it didn't even go to him. It was Devonta Smith. So, and he had to miss some COVID games too. So the other thing is, like, I know there's going to be a lot of Heisman hype, Drew, with Arch. You know, you check out your favorite books. He's the first name listed. And you know, it's a hype award. It's still meaningful, but there's still a lot of hype to it. But what would it mean to finally add a third for the Texas program if Manning makes it all that distance?
Man, it fulfills the prophecy, right? At the end of the day, there's hype, and it's rare you hear or have hype, especially at a program like Texas. Actually, I mean, we get all the hype. I mean, let's make no mistake. Anytime there's anyone who's good to great, there's going to be hype, and Arch kind of takes the cake, really, for anybody you can really think back to over the last decade, as far as guys who've played the amount of snaps he's played so far going into his third season. So, Texas, I mean, the stage is set. You know, the stage is set. I was trying to think, like, who would be a similar comp that if he performed, like, I can see Arch having a J.J. McCarthy year, you know, but think about the Texas defense, think about the production, the efficiency, the weapons around him. I mean, does that win a Heisman? You know, like is that worthy? I mean, you can make it to a national championship and win it all with that type of effort. But you're definitely going to need the hype. You're definitely going to need the big games. You're going to need the road wins. So wins at Ohio State, wins at Georgia, wins at Florida. I mean, those are going to be games that everyone's watching. So he just has to meet expectations and really distribute the football, get everyone else involved. And I think his legs could be the kicker, really, on whether he runs away with something like this or if he's just battling it out with some really other talented quarterbacks throughout the country.
I think quarterbacks with I wonder what it looks like since 2000. If you have a quarterback who either has like 4,000 yards passing or over 750 yards rushing, like what their percentage winning the Heisman is. We know one that did not get there, but if you're a true dual threat and you're exciting and you're doing the things like, you know, that Jaden Daniels run against Florida, I think, or, you know, you're doing I know Bryce had a few different runs in 2021 that were impressive. Like if you're doing that stuff and you're having those moments and you're having those wins, or you're putting up ridiculous stats, that's one way to get there. So before we keep going, got to show some love to our other sponsor, that is Luxe Kitchen and Bath.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
This is Joe, always wear pajamas. Hey, this is a nice Orvis flannel, and I'm in a place where I need one. So I I do have the confidence too, so I appreciate that. Drew, a couple for you. Is Columbus one of the loudest places you've ever played?
Yes, but you don't notice while you're playing. It's weird.
And you play defense, so I've always wondered like what it's like going
It's
into
not
a 100,000 person place when you're on defense.
It was loud when we were on the sideline for sure. And I think that's why you got to, I mean, on defense, you get to really turn around and realize, what's really going on because they're loud out there. But yeah, I mean, while we're on the field, it's never too crazy. I can't say it's one of the loudest. It's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. Odd enough, and I think there's this hate fueled with it. But Arkansas and College Station, I mean, those two places were probably the craziest I've been to, just from a overall start to finish of a game, just loud. But Ohio State's definitely up there.
That 2021 Arkansas game, and part of this may be because it was an open air press box, probably one of the loudest places I've been. They only hold like 77,000 only. I know that's crazy to think about. Bama was loud. Michigan was pretty loud.
Michigan died down pretty quick.
But it died down quick. And, Bama died down after a certain juncture too. So it was always fun to do that. But speaking of some legendary Longhorn moments, got to talk about a Longhorn legend. Got to talk about a guy, Drew, that we love to track today, but you got to play with him as well back in the day. Texas announced its Athletics Hall of Honor inductees. 10 different Longhorn student athletes will be honored during the weekend of the UTEP game. And there are some best of the best here. But football-wise, Bobby Mitchell, you see there at the bottom, a vintage selection. But Rod Wright, All-American, first-round draft pick, I think top 10 pick, pro career, and someone who has turned his pro football career, playing career, into a very, very successful coaching career. One of the best defensive players probably to suit up for Mac Brown. And Drew, someone I know that you have a lot of respect for in a lot of different ways. And there's you're in the club of having a T ring, but I know that for Longhorn letterman to be in this Hall of Honor is something obviously really special. And I'm sure you're as proud as anybody to see Rod make that list.
Oh man, listen, I mean, people don't understand, like Rod and VY were truly core leaders for that national championship team. I mean, his presence, his leadership, and what's crazy too, coming from Houston, I played against Rod in high school. I played against VY in high school. So I just coming to Texas, Rod was, I don't know if people remember Rod back in the day when he was in high school. He had his glasses. He wore these glasses with the little,
the right specs, yeah.
Yeah, with the specs. I mean, he had the little elastic around his head. And I was like, dude, there's no way you're going to ball out when you get to Texas. And I show up to campus. Before I even get to campus, he's a freshman All-American. But really his leadership is what stands out more than anything. He's a guy who would always speak up to keep everyone in line. Even when we are in line, he would always press and see how much further we can press and stretch. And when you talk about the legacy of D linemen at Texas, Rod is up there. And I know his play warrants that, but I can't say enough about the man he is and the leadership he had for that team, but also just everything that he's doing together today and just raising his family and now getting ready in camp to coach the Texans, man.
He's definitely one of the most impressive, I think, defensive players. And then also cool to see a couple other names on here. Royale Ivy, I think this might be long overdue. And it's not, I know we look at what they do after they leave Texas and remember that fondly, but like Royale Ivy was part of these Texas basketball teams that, there wasn't much going on. You had the good moments with, Penders. You get Rick Barnes. They have a couple good. I don't want to say stumble out of the gate, but Royale Ivy is one of the big reasons why Texas basketball in the early 2000s takes off. And he's more than just a role player. He's a glue guy. He's someone that really jumps in and helps make the most of the TJ Ford years and kind of builds a bridge over to the Kevin Durant years. And, it's so cool to have seen him. I know he's with the Rockets now. I know he's also, I think he interviewed for the job just to have an interview when Shaka was let go. But Evan, the stuff he's done with that South Sudan national team just speaks volumes to this is someone who's going to end up on an NBA bench as a head coach someday.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like you said, where sometimes these guys just need that little bit of push of notoriety before it was all happening. I think this is the most popular Royale Ivy's been in a while because of what he did with that. Because, he wasn't like that 20-point-per-game scorer at Texas. He was just solid starter for 4 years, which you don't see anymore at all in college basketball. But I think it's just so cool to have someone that's a UT basketball alumni that's not just coaching internationally, doing it in the NBA, and then taking a country that is just so underfunded when it comes to the long-term basketball. Just not a team that's been around for much longer. And a lot of players that you kind of heard of, but you don't really know who they are. And suddenly they finished top 12 or top 8 in the most recent FIBA competitions. And like you said, he seems like a great mind. I can't wait to see him coaching some team. That's probably why he's not looking to go back into college, is because he might be an NBA head coach someday.
Royale, man, there's a couple things about him that always stood out. I think when I was coming out of high school and then going into Texas, anyone during that era, it's like New York owned basketball at that time. Like, you had the And One mixtapes and all of that, right? Royale was a true New York basketball hooper. He loved hooping. He loved the game of basketball. That's why he's coaching now. I mean, he eats, sleep, and breathes it. He was smart on the floor. He was a leader on the floor. It meant so much to him. So really, it's funny seeing he and Rod here because both are obsessed with the game, absolutely obsessed with the game, and really don't know what either one of them would have done without it. But I'm happy to see both of them, and specifically Royale in this instance, make it to the Hall of Honor. I mean, definitely a player who should be recognized, but I mean, just knowing his presence on that team, his presence on campus, and what he brought to that roster, man, it was one of a kind.
He kind of sounds like your favorite player's favorite player, that type of thing. And, a lot of other greats, Olympians, All-Americans, I know two have passed, I believe 3 maybe, with Bobby Mitchell, with Tiffany Jackson from women's basketball, Nancy Ledbetter from golf. I think Bobby Mitchell's passed. I don't know that for sure. Swimming and diving represented. But Haley Eckerman, I think her recognition, she's still alive, her recognition, current Kent State head coach. And I mean, I remember showing up on campus in 2012 and, hearing about volleyball and just seeing that, this team is taking off and they go to the national championship, and it's because of her. And it ends up that she might be one of the best volleyball players in the history of NCAA volleyball.
And that's where, like, Logan Eggleston, for me at least, I'm kind of, 13 years later when I'm coming to campus, is the volleyball players have such a big impact on you when you're actually on the ground in the Jester dorms and things like that. And I think that's part of why this Hall of Honor is so awesome to have every single sport represented, because you're going to see those kind of coaches and players that you grew up, you went to the school, and you remember going to those games when you were just a freshman. And I think it's so cool to see some of these people. And I'm not as familiar with, Eckerman and Ledbetter, but I know those people who did watch them probably have such a great connection.
I think, that was the advent of Longhorn Network as well. And I know a lot of people kind of talk trash about Longhorn Network and what it represented at a time of Texas football, but people aren't watching Texas volleyball, and the SEC network isn't showing, volleyball, gymnastics, other things like that without the Longhorn Network. And for Haley Eckerman to be there, helping, Texas in 2011, 2012 win the national title, winning National Player of the Year, I think 3 times, 4-time Big 12 Player of the Year, like that helped the sport and also helped Longhorn Network become, I don't want to say cherished, because so many football people are going to be like, oh, we stunk during that time. But like the fact that she had that platform, I think is so underrated, not only in how it impacted her career, but so many different careers. Like you mentioned, Eggleston, any of the other, Final Four players who played Texas volleyball, Texas softball, and I know that was on SEC Network, but the fact that you can watch all those games and see them play top 5 teams regularly, You can watch baseball. College baseball used to be the most niche sport ever. And so now you can watch that every weekend. I think Logan Eggleston kind of represents what's the right way to say it? Just a great way of indicating how the Longhorn Network really helped out. And then Drew, one last thing, got to show this when we're talking about Rod Wright. The fumble recovery, the touchdown, 45-12. Like this is one of the best moments, I think, in that rivalry from the 2000s. And your guy was right there in the thick of it, putting 6 points on the board.
It's so funny, man, because you think on a play like this, everyone celebrates, but we didn't let him make it. We talked so much trash to him about how slow he was running back. But he was kicking though, man. It's moments like this though, especially in Texas OU game, that you remember plays like this. I mean, this was a key play, key season, key moment, and it's rare you get to see D lineman make the play he made or had the opportunity to make and take it all the way to the house. We've had D linemen, go to the other side of the ball and catch a couple passes in the end zone, but him running, I mean, there's Jordan Shipley running for long touchdowns at Texas. Like there's certain moments you'll never forget in that game, and Rod's right in the thick of that history. So, man. Well, yeah, we gave him a lot of crap about how long it took for him to actually get to the end zone.
My AIM username was Cotton Bowl 4512 right after that game, which tells you how long we've been doing this. So a lot of fun. Well, I know exactly. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for joining. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Me, Justin, and Ian for our Thursday morning live. But of course, make sure you always check out Inside Texas. $1 until August 30th. That's kickoff of the Ohio State game. You're going to get all our camp coverage, all the recruiting coverage, all the everything leading up to that big game, including, I just realized this today, reading through some game notes, Lee Corso's last headset pick. Of course, also check out Thinking Texas Football. Paul Wadlington, he always brings it on his yearly preview. Every player, every position, every opponent, every SEC team, the landscape of college football, and of course, a look at the 2025 class and what their expectations could be from Eric Naline. So make sure you check that out. The link is in the description. Evan, Drew, appreciate y'all as always. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.